Hey guys, Dissimulator here, bringing you my thoughts on the version 0.11 beta Saurian Ancients codex. First off, I wanted to apologize for how little I've been posting any videos since I got back into Ninth Age. Um, Basically, I was applying for the Saurian Ancients ABC, and I didn't want to post up like a bunch of videos like, oh, here's what I think they should do, and then be on it. I just thought that would look really awful, so I waited until that application process finished to do a review video that also, gave me more time to test out the units and make sure that my opinions on the different units and the state of the book were not just initial impressions, that, I actually had some time to really see how it worked, because especially the version 11 magic rules changed so much that most of my opinions on the version 10 book were no longer valid. So, obviously I didn't get on the ABC. My application wasn't successful, but, they said they were looking for, like, hardcore tournament players because they're moving away from a design-focused stage and into more a balance by the numbers stage, and, like, what's actually used in tournaments and stuff, and that is definitely my weakest point. I'm much more of a high-level design type guy, so I completely understand that, and I'm not upset by it at all. Um, but anyway, that makes it so that I'm able to now bring you this video. And apologies in advance for how long this is probably going to be, especially things like the Slan and a couple of the other units. I'm probably going to lose track of how much time I spend on them. Or, sorry, the Coatl. Um, but yeah, I'm just going to go through it page by page and say what I think is in a good place, what needs to be changed, if it's overpowered or underpowered, how I think it would change best, and then at the end, hopefully I'll be able to do a summary of what I think would put the book in a perfect position. Um, okay, so first off, overall, I want to get this out of the way so you don't have to watch all the way at the end to hear it. My thoughts on the army overall. We were, in version 10, considered fairly overpowered as an army, but I maintained a lot of the time that that was purely because of the strength of the Skink Cloud build in tournaments. That build has been neutered, not completely killed. It's still able to work, but it isn't the overpoweredness of 8 tiny, fast-moving skirmisher units running around and being impossible to catch that it was. So, from what I've heard of rudimentary tournament data, Saurian Ancients are actually slightly underperforming right now. I think that isn't a problem with the book itself and more the way that the new magic rules affected us, because we've always been such a magic-focused army. I think that if and I'll talk more about this on the Coatl's page, I think that if Lord-level casters are kind of incentivized a bit more than they currently are, then we'll be in a pretty good place on average, with a couple just outlying units that would need to be toned down and a couple others that would need to be brought up to speed. But I do think we're in a really good place right now. So, first off, the Army Special Rules. The only change here was the removal of the clarifying sentence on cold-blooded. I would assume, I haven't looked at books like the Vampire Covenant one, where abilities like this was referring to existed, but I would assume that the wording on those were changed to cause a leadership test, so that this wording became no longer necessary. Other than that, there's no change here. I haven't done this video review on the version 9 or version 10, so I'll just, as I go through, make a point to point out quick things that changed from 8th edition that I really like. The one that reminded me of that is the blowpipes being defined as a monster hunting weapon. I think that's a really nice change. and actually kind of fills a niche for lizardmen since we never had cannons to help deal with those monsters. Now we can get it from blowpipes. Quick to fire on the Stegodon weapons actually makes them somewhat usable, also a great change. Okay, magic items, and I know this is only page 3, but this is probably one of the 3 biggest pieces of contention in the book right now, along with Raptor Riders and the recent changes to Saurian characters. Magic items, there's 2 that are probably overpowered a little bit. There's a few that are in a really good place, and then there's about 4 or 5 that are just absolutely never going to be used. And this page is probably the one that needs the most work. It's probably slipped through the cracks just to get the units more in place, which is fine. But it really does need to get fixed before April when version 1 releases. Sword of the Dawn Ages is one that is one of the ones that really needs to get buffed up in some way. There's no reason to use this over just a normal great weapon or something. Multiple wounds 2 is, I mean, sure, there's no qualifiers like there is on a lot of multiple wounds these days, but it isn't going to see use often enough where just having straight up strength 7 wouldn't be more beneficial than strength 5 armor piercing. Now, I did run a poll on the 9th Age forums asking what people thought needed to be done on certain units just to get overall community feedback. And this sword was one of the things that they wanted the effect to be buffed. Pretty much everybody wanted the effect to be buffed instead of the sword being made cheaper. You know, we are a somewhat fighty army. We should have a good close combat magic weapon to get our hands on. Something like just straight up making it plus strength instead of armor piercing would be a good change. Divine attacks would be a good one too. You know, just really anything. Spear of the... Sorry about that, not sure what happened there. Spear of the Stampede I love, most people love. It's pretty great on all forms of skinks. Serpent Bow, some people don't use it. The people that do use it on a Pterodon Chief love it. I wouldn't change it just because not every weapon needs to be used in every list, and this has its own little niche there. Pterosaur Helm, the change down to 1 impact hit instead of D3 isn't really that great in my opinion. And besides, there's a lot more prevalence of high strength attacks in the 9th Age than there was in 8th. Strength 5 especially is more common. And so this only giving 1 pip to armor save and no ward, and it takes up your magic armor slot. Ends up not being used that often. A lot of people said it should give 1 wound instead of 1 toughness. I think that might be a little bit much. But it needs a little bit more defensive capability, or needs to be a little bit cheaper so you can fit in a ward save talisman alongside it. Easier. As it stands right now, it's just not really worth 35 points. Okay, the Starfall Shard. This is one that everybody is kind of debating right now because of its strength on a warlord with an Alpha Carnosaur. Specifically, it's only really used in that build, but it is an excellent, possibly overpowered item in that build. You don't want to nerf the item overall just for a specific build that it's used on. So the camps currently are to nerf this item, increase the cost of the Alpha Carnosaur, or reduce the Alpha Carnosaur from weapon skill 5 to weapon skill 4. I am currently in the camp where I should reduce it to weapon skill 4, just because it's supposed to be a monster hunter, and most monsters, except maybe dragons, aren't really that high weapon skill in the first place, so all it really does is hurt a weapon skill 5 infantry, like elven infantry, from hitting it. Which it shouldn't be that great against infantry, because it's supposed to be hunting down monsters. I would like to see a reduced elevated weapon skill 3 and just put Apex Predator, have it be +1 to hit against monsters. I would really like to see that change. But If neither of those are done, then the Lord version of this should probably be upped in points a little bit, because it isn't really a problem on the veterans, it's only really a problem on the warlords. Jade Staff, a lot of people don't like it, but it's only 20 points. Gives a nice little benefit. I really like taking this on a Skink High Priest with light magic. It's my go-to build, honestly, is this, and then the Pathmaster item with light and a bunch of Saurus. I like it. I wouldn't change it. Eka Quetzal. Personally, I like this item. It's a very unpopular opinion, though. Most people think it's kind of just too random to really be worth it. Maybe if it got knocked down to like 25 points, then the randomness would be okay. I don't really see a way to decrease the randomness from just because D3 is about the least random you can get. And this item, it used to have a whole chart where it was extremely random. Could even only do like D6 strength 4 all the way up to 2D6 strength 5. So, I don't really mind this how it is, but maybe it should be a little bit cheaper. I think just a strength 4 breath weapon would be really boring as a magic item. I really do like the randomness that this brings. Plus, it's great on a completely bare bones skink chief on a flying mount. Just give him a lance and this, and just run him into a unit as a living magic missile. Black Cube, probably a little bit expensive for what it does. The arcane items are a huge point of contention, especially with me, just because the High Elves have the exact... I know we're not supposed to compare across army books, but they have the exact same items, except that they're better. The Black Cube, their version of the Black Cube doesn't just remove the power dice, you steal it for only an extra 20 points more. Maybe this should be like 40, 45, something, 40 probably. The Ancient Plaque, though, especially, the High Elf version is 10 points cheaper for both Lords and Heroes. And this one is once per magic phase, you can reroll a power dice that was used for a casting roll. But you can't use it with one dice, and you can't reroll sixes. The High Elf version can also be used for dispels, and can be used with one dice, and is 10 points cheaper. One dice is the time you really want to be using this. So you can just one dice some little cheap spell and have a chance to re-roll it. So that alone makes the High Elf item probably twice as good for 10 points cheaper. How this one stands, it should only be like 40 points for a Lord and 20 for a hero, if that, maybe 35 for a Lord. This is just a complete trash item I would never put in any list. Honestly, I could see just removing this and putting back in the Totem with a Mirrored Pool, because as complicated as the item was, and as iffy as everybody seemed to be about it, I thought it was hilariously fun. And I do really miss it. Totem of Mixolotl. Bouncing back to the other end of the spectrum, this banner, everybody in other armies look at and immediately see like, oh my god, this is really OP, because it allows us to reroll ones and twos, but we're already rerolling ones, or that cost is baked into our units already. So this I worked out, I think I mathed it out once to be about an increase in 1 wound per round of combat on Temple Guard, like if Temple Guard have it, which is definitely not bad. It's not crazy OP. I think that if you had to bring a BSB to carry this, like if it was 55 points, it would be completely never used ever. Right now it's basically used in either a Cayman BSB in a massive brick of Cayman, or a Temple Guard just carrying it and being a really good hitty unit. I could stand to see this go up to 40 or 45 points, but I would not put it past that. Partially just because then you're competing with the Razor Standard, whatever it's called now, and I actually do really like this banner. Okay, then we come to Lords, and the Saurian Warlord. This is a thing. They recently knocked him down by 15 points, which is great. but then they reduced his innate defense from a 4 up to a 5 up, and then gave him heavy armor, but only if he's on foot. And this is really weird because it doesn't hit the Carnosaur build at all, because, you're really relying on the Carnosaur's defenses there. It doesn't hit the Raptor build. It hits the Raptor build by, I think, 5 points, but nobody's going to take a 50-point Raptor now that they just raised it by another 15 points. Nobody's going to pay 50 points just to put a character on a horse, basically, on our version of a horse. It's a barded horse, but still. It's especially a slap in the face when Dark Elf Lord level characters can get Raptors for 35 points, and they're our mount, and we have to pay more than someone who stole it. But regardless, heavy armor has never been in a Lizardman book on any unit, and it just seems really odd, especially when there's magic heavy armor that's even cheaper than, not even the same price, it's much cheaper than this mundane heavy armor, and can be taken on a mount instead of only on foot. So I don't know why you would take this heavy armor when you can just take like glittering mail or gambler's armor for much cheaper with an extra benefit. Honestly, just all of his mundane equipment just seems way overcosted. Like, even if you really wanted to just bake the cost of his mundane, like, I could see just cut the cost of every single weapon by 5 points and then increase him by 5 points. You end up with the exact same cost for the guy, except that it just feels better. That's the thing with this. I'm not really worried about how it actually plays. I'm more worried about how it feels for the player making a list. Because sure, maybe a Raptor's worth 50 points, but it doesn't feel like it when you're making a list. It feels like you're just being shortchanged. Maybe if you want to incentivize foot builds by making him cheaper on foot, then come up with a rule or something that he only gets when he's on foot. Just incentivize it in some other way, because honestly, if I would just want to revert all of the version 11 changes on this guy and put him back where he was, because he was in a pretty good place as is. Now the only time you'll ever see him is on an Alpha Carnosaur, flat out. And just get rid of the heavy armor option. It's not necessary. Okay, the Skink High Priest. Now, I really like this. I really like that they added it, especially that he gets access to light and nature magic, and especially light, because light is so good with Saurus. Half the time that's the only reason I took Oslan was just because he got access to light magic. But I'm kind of having a problem in version 11 where I think all Lord level casters across all 15 army books are overcosted by about 15, 20, maybe 25 points. And I've made a couple posts on the forums explaining this isn't just like how I feel that they're overcosted. I've actually mathed it out, and that's exactly what they need to be. Because the problem is that a level 2 Skink Priest is, let me scroll down really quick, is 90 points. So you can get a level 2 and a level 1 for 155. And that gives you the same number of spells, one less to cast, but +1 to channel. You have 2 points to cast from. You're splitting his spells over that, but that's regardless. The big thing is you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Like, if they kill your wizard, you have another wizard to back up. You have the same amount of room for magic items across the two, but you get an extra arcane item slot. A lot of magic items are cheaper for heroes, the big one being the +1 to cast item, so you could slap that on the level 2 and make him, casting as though he was a lord, and then still have room for the scroll. And, it's not that weird in this book because, you could still take the High Priest just for light or nature magic, but especially in other books where the hero gets the same lores as the lord. Like my other main army is beastmen, and the heroes and lords get the exact same lores. So why would I take, like I just said, that the two heroes is 155 plus cheaper items, plus my eggs aren't in one basket, plus one to channel. Why on earth would I ever take the lord hero over the two, or the lord caster over the two hero casters? I wouldn't. It just wouldn't be an option. So it needs to be, they just need to cut it down so that a level 3 is equal in points to a level 2 and a level 1. Because, sorry I'm talking about this so much, it's kind of bugged me ever since they made the change. Basically what they did is they took 5 points from the level 2 upgrade and baked it into all level 1s. Made the upgrade 5 points cheaper, so level 2s are the exact same cost, level 1s are 5 points more expensive. Fine. Then they took a bunch of costs from the level 4 upgrade and baked it into the level 3. I guess they just did the same thing they did with the hero ones. But what that did is it made level 3s 25 points more expensive and level 4s the same cost. The problem with that is level 1s got better, level 2s and 3s stayed the same, and level 4s got worse with the new magic rules. Effectively. So they basically, level 1s got better and went up in cost slightly. Level 2s stayed the same and stayed the same. Level 3s could stay the same, but went up in cost 25 points. And level 4s got worse and stayed the same cost. I'm not saying you need to bump it all the way down 25 points again, but like a 15 point just across the board slash would make it a lot more even between whether you want to take lords or a bunch of heroes. Right now it's just, unless you absolutely needed access to a specific lore that only the lord can have, there's no reason to take the lord. Anyway, rant over. Other than that, the Palanquin seems a little expensive for just being able to put him inside the unit. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Like, I do understand why you wouldn't want to cut the cost on the Palanquin, but maybe it should do something else, like give toughness 4 to him. That wouldn't be crazy overpowered. And maybe then the Palanquin could even go up to 40 points if it gave him toughness 4. It seems weird paying 35 points just to be able to put him inside the unit instead of next to the unit. Next up is the Quaddle Lord, our iconic toad. Again, I think he's overcosted by about 15-20 points. BSP 50 points. I understand why they did that. Personally, I'd never put the banner on him anyway, even with the new stand your ground rules. Just because he's already such a big target, why put more of a target on him? The disciplines are the big thing with him. I'm so happy they brought back spell swapping. I really fought for that on the forums. The big two that I have an issue with are Master of Magic and Wandering Path. Those two I both think are just much more expensive than they need to be. I need to take a drink. Okay, Master of Magic is basically the same, arguably worse, arguably better than the 50-point upgrade Tomb King get, and I know, or Undying Dynasties get, and I know I'm comparing across armies again. I don't expect this to get knocked down to 50 points, but 85 points is a lot, especially considering that it would limit you to only one other discipline with the 150-point cap if you take this, which is a huge limitation in the first place, and you can't take it with either the offensive one or the defensive one, magic-wise. So there's already so many limitations on this. It doesn't need to be 85 points, too. And then other than that, Wandering Path is 75 points for something that was 30 points in 8th edition and wasn't even taken every single time then. So, that really isn't needed. Apparently, I've heard rumors, not sure how true they are, that the reason it's 75 points is because it plus the Wellspring of Power is such a potent combination. But if that's the case, if it's really being priced at like 30 points more than it needs to be just for that combination. Just disallow that combination. I mean, just cut Wandering Path down to 50 points and say it cannot be combined with Wellspring of Power. And if you want to word like justify it lore-wise, just say that, you know, somewhere in the fluff that Wandering Slan never, or Wandering Coatls never trained hard enough to get the power levels that Meditating Slan do, or, you know, something. What I wouldn't mind seeing, just to clear up this whole section, because, you know, there's this can't be combined with that, this can't be combined with either of these, yada yada yada. I would just put these three in a big, really expensive ones in a box and say, you know, these are the ancient disciplines or something, you can only pick one. These three spell-focused ones in another box, say these are the knowledge ones, you can only pick one. And then put these three down at the bottom, because they're all the little cheap utility ones, and just call them minor disciplines or something, and you can pick any and all. I think it would just clear this section up visually, and it would, you know, help with some of these combos. The other thing is, all of these are just, as a whole, fairly expensive. And it seems it really de-incentivizes taking multiple and really tricking out a really high-powered Master of Magic Coatl, which is what they're supposed to be. So what I would like, let's assume for a second that this is knocked down to like 70 points, and this is knocked down to 50, but you can't take it with those, you know, all those changes, yada yada yada. I would like all of them, probably not Wellspring, because that's so good with the new Magic rules, but let's say all of these to get cut 15% in cost. Just all of them across the board. So make this 50, make this from 70 to, then make this 65, I guess, make this like 30 or 35, this 25, this 25, this 40 or 45, this the same, make these two the same, make this one like 45 or 50, just across the board, slash them all, and then take that same like 5 to 10 points and add it back to his score, so, or his point cost. So like now make him 280, or, you know, if they do reduce him to 250 or 255, make him 260 then, or you know, basically cut these all by 5 to 10 points and then increase his point cost by 10 points. And then what you'd end up doing, yeah, all of these would seem too cheap on the face of it, maybe. I don't think they would. I think that these would feel a bit more reasonable in cost, which is the whole point of this. But for one discipline, he'd be the exact same cost. Maybe slightly more expensive, depending on the one discipline and the exact numbers people go with. And then 2, he'd be either the same cost or slightly cheaper by 5 to 10 points, which is not much when you're talking about a 400-point model. And then 3, he'd be cheaper by like 25-ish points, which is, I think, a good thing. That's all this change would really do. It would keep 1 the same, 2 the same-ish, you know, rounding and exact numbers, variances, but it reduced the cost of making a fully upgraded one, which right now is like nearly 500 points to do. When you're paying for him and then the items and then the disciplines and everything else, which I think is why GW made him 300 and however many points he was last edition, but then all of these were like 30 points. Just to say you could trick him out if you really wanted to. So let's say they don't change the Lord costs. Just to throw some numbers out there, that would make him 280 base, and then you cut these two by 5, you cut the rest by 10. You know, this one and this one being dropped just because, dropped a little bit lower, and this one being left alone. And then you grab a couple ones, and oh look, he's a little bit more expensive than he was. Or you grab one, he's a little bit more expensive than he was. You grab two, he's basically the same because you're probably grabbing Wellspring. And then you grab three, and he's a little bit cheaper. And I think that would be a good change. Okay, on to the heroes. I'll try and speed it up from here. Most of what I was really wanting to talk about has been passed already. Skink Priest, just, standard Skink Priest, I think is in a great position. Alpha Pterodon mount is a great option now. That was a really cool thing to add, especially now that they got rid of the Cloak of Feathers, my favorite, that old awesome item. Skink Captain, all pretty good, except the Lance could probably be switched with the Light Lance, and these two flying mounts should probably go up like to 45 and 55 or something, just because the flying Skink Captains are pretty cheap for what they do, especially the one on the Ramphidon. And the Light Lance would help, mitigate what they're able to do too. So those are the changes I'd like to see here. Saurian Veteran, again, just kill the heavy armor. Come on. That doesn't really need to be an option, especially when there's magic heavy armor that's cheaper. All you're doing is making it so that on-foot ones can pay 8 bajillion points and get up to a 3-up armor, or a 1-up armor save with a shield, or a 2-up without a shield. And, if you're keeping one on foot, you're probably going to try and make it as cheap as possible anyway. So I don't really see that being an option that's needed. 2-up is fine on foot with a shield. Some of the weapons, probably, I don't really like seeing that they're the same price as the ones in the Warlord. Just knock them down to what are the Warlord ones? Like the Halberd. No, the Halberd's 10. Maybe they did fix. Oh, because they've raised them all on the Warlord. That's what it is. Never mind. That's still, come on. 15 points for a great weapon. Other army books with very similar combat heroes do not pay that much for weapons. And again, 40 points for a mount. Seriously, really? Wow, I just realized I'm coming off as really contentious. It is not my opinion, not my intention at all. I do think that they've done a great job. I don't know. I guess I'm in a mood today. So apologies to the ABC if I'm crapping all over their book and not focusing on what I think is good. This guy, Cayman Ancient, currently doesn't really have a role outside the BSB in a block of 9 or 10. Cayman, unfortunately, making him cheaper probably to make him only better at that role. I don't know. He kind of needs something, an extra attack, or if you raise the points on the banner, maybe discount him the same number of points, so he's cheaper base. And then if you're using him in the BSB, he's the same cost as he currently is. Yeah, that's what I'd probably do. I'd probably raise the banner to 45 and make him be only 120. Saurian Warriors. I love the Fear totem. I think that is a really, really cool idea. Nice utility one, because before they all had a specific role. This is kind of just a good all-around upgrade. I do think the name maybe should be changed from Totem Animal, just because, Beastmen get totems. We should get, Spirit Animal, or God Aspect, or, just something. Animal Aspect, maybe. I don't know. Just totems is used by a different army. One big thing here is this 2-point per model spears. I mean, apparently even the ABC doesn't really know why they're 2 points per model. The rules team just said that a strength 4 2-attack model with a spear, the spears are 2 points a model, just across the board. And the problem with that is, think of another strength 4 2-attack model, is a Chaos Warrior, who is much higher weapon skill, and much higher initiative. So they're more liable to hit with their spear, and you know you won't have a bunch of guys dying before they even get to swing with their expensive spears. If you look at Saurus, you've got a unit of, let's say, 30 with spears. They charge in. The other enemy they're fighting attacks. You lose like 5 or 6 Saurus. Fairly normal run of combat. 5 or 6 are gone before they're allowed to swing. You just lost 10 points of spears that never even would have done anything. That's a lot for, just a weapon upgrade on such a slow unit. Especially, they're not going to get to use the fight next to rank part as much as another unit would because, they're going to be losing models before they swing instead of after. They're not going to be hitting as much with the spears because weapon skill 3, even with Born Predator. It is pretty much unanimous across the entire Saurian Ancient Forum that spears should be 1 point a model. Nobody thinks they should have been free how they were with how good spears are now, but they definitely need to be 1 point a model. Other than that, I think this looks great. There's another way to look at it, is a 3-up armor, strength 4, AP 1, initiative 2 guy really worth 15 points? Because that's what he would end up being, is 15 points. That's a lot of points. Especially with magic toned down now, because Saurian's always kind of paid for having access to the Slan's buffs, or Coatl's buffs. Skink Braves, I really like how they changed these units around. I think that short bows should be on the Hunters instead of on the Braves, just to kind of help define their roles. These guys should be 20 models based. This is the biggest minimum unit size in the entire game. Bigger than zombies, bigger than slaves. That's bigger than the box they come in. If you went and bought a box of these, you technically couldn't field a legal unit just out of the box. And, if 20 models really enabled the cloud to come back instead of 25, that whole 25-point difference, then make it be 20 models at 110 points base. Make it pay an extra 10 points for being at min-unit size, which is fine. It's a half point a model. It's whatever. Or, take away the javelins and make them pay for it, or something. I'm not even sure, honestly. It's just whatever it takes to get these guys to a 20-man min-unit size. Hunters. I'm kind of bugged that you can't take Javelin Shield Skirmishers, mostly because that's what everyone's used to running. I'm not sure how to enable that as an option without, elegantly, without murdering everything out. Nerfing all the other options. You could take shields away from them base and make them pay for them for 1 point a model, but then that nerfs, the 60-point just Musician Jav Shield guys. The only way I could think to do it would be, you could... I'm not sure. All the ways I can think to do it would make the 10-man Jav Shield Musician unit 70 points instead of 60, which don't really need to be nerfed. I guess the only way to do it would be take Skirmish at 4 points a model. That's a lot of points a model. But I'd be completely willing to pay 90 points a unit for the Jav Shield Skirmishers. That's just, it's what I'd like. I don't know why shields with skirmish is considered so broken, but whatever. Snake Swarm's getting cheaper. Love this change. I love my swarms. I even used them when they were 70 points a model, or 70 points a unit in 8th. Excellent redirectors, in my opinion. Not much else to say there. Temple Guard, great how they are. I personally don't think this is worth it, but you obviously can't make it. The Weapon Master upgrade is worth it, but you obviously can't make it cheaper than 1 point a model, so that's fine. Um, Born Predator makes them actually a usable unit now, unlike in 8th where they... And the fact that Salon or Coatls can be pushed to the back instead of having to be in the second rank. That's all great changes. Raptor Riders, they're never going to be able to reduce the cost on these just because one country hates the bus so much. But honestly, these could go down to 30 points a model and they'd probably still never get used. So I don't even know what to do with these guys. I'm sorry to gloss over them so much. They're really, really bad. I love on my own 24 of the things. Back from 7th edition when you could have Krokgar run them all as core, but I haven't touched them. I ran them in one tournament list at Buckeye 2 years ago in this character wall lance formation. I ran 6 of them just to absorb shooting wounds. And then they were 30 points a model. I still never used them, so I don't know, good luck with them. Chameleons, no changes. Great how they are, especially now that the Scout got nerfed. 10 points a model is fine. Caimans, these are, especially the Hardened Scales version with the BSB, the whole 10-man build. There's 2 changes I could really see being made to these. Either A, changes may add up to 5 models, like cap the unit at 8. I think that would be fine. The other one is just bump them up to 130 points base and then 45 a model after that. Just bump them up a couple points. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about those. Skink Skyriders, both options I think are in a really good place. The change from these guys to get the 3-up armor save is excellent in my opinion, especially and then their boost in initiative also great. Those are the 2 big problems in 8th. The one thing that's a little odd here is the fact that these guys had this whole section right here, which is Mounts Protection 6-up, should just be deleted, I think, because then under it you have to choose a mount, and both of these come with Mounts Protection. I actually think this should say Innate Defense 6-up, and then the Innate Defense here and here should be deleted, because this is just confused. It looks like there's all 3 of these. It looks like this is a 4-up and this is a 3-up, and then you can take a shield, and oh wow, I just realized you can put shields on pterodons and make them 4-up. Interesting. That's fun. Raycent, I really like that change too, because one unit of these was always kind of useless. You had to take 2, and then the captains didn't get it, which was just dumb. A pair of captains on Ramphidons, and then you marking 2 units, in my opinion, is awesome. I need more models, because I only have 6 models right now, one of which I built to be a captain. So yeah, I should really get another box of these, just so I can run 2 captains, and then... This one, this was the much worse option, and then they made it so it can stack, and then it stacks with its own bound spell, and you can throw jungle swarms in, and you can get poison on a 4-up with this one, and now this just completely outclasses the +1 weapon skill version. I mean, this is absolutely awesome. Yeah, these should be the same point cost. So I don't know if that should be 110 is probably a little low. I don't know if it should be 120 or 130, but these 2 should be the same point cost. Spearbacks, these are considered one of the best units in the book right now, which is hilarious because nobody really owns the models, because nobody used these before. how I would change these. There's a couple ways that people have been throwing around. Getting rid of the armor-piercing one and making razor-sharp spikes, just give it back. Just get rid of the whole short-range armor-piercing. Just flat out, they have armor-piercing one if they have razor-sharp spikes. And get rid of it base. Just flat increase their point cost. Or move them to rare. Or both. And then one other that I've seen, which I actually really like, is reduce the max unit size to 2 models instead of 3. Now what I would personally do, I would do the 2 models units. So you have max 6 in an army then instead of max 9. And I would do the armor piercing thing. That's what I would make it be one model, mad up to 1 model. 58's a weird number. I should really kind of want to nerf them by 2 points just so it's an easier to remember number. And then put razor sharp spikes as being just AP1 for 7 points a model. Then you can have these guys back. Because everybody's taking the Pterodon Hunter spikes too. So that would make an actual choice between the 2 upgrades. And you can have these guys how they are right now, baseline, back. But you can only have 6 of them, not 9, and they're 65 points a model, not 58. I think that would be pretty good how they are. Yeah, because the biggest problems in this book right now are these guys and the Cayman. A horde of, 10, or not a horde, but 10 Cayman with the BSB, with the Totem of Mixolotl, and as many Spearbacks as you can fit in the list are going quickly become the just go-to build if something isn't done about it, which sucks because nobody really owns those models. Nobody used them in 8th. Salamanders, I think, are fine. Although I have pointed out 3 books in a row now. This odd interaction here. Living Artillery and the Flamethrowers. Misfires rolled add +4 to the result roll in the misfire chart. Really what that is saying is that you can only ever roll a 5 up. And I really wish that's what it said. Just if a misfire is rolled, just treat the salamander as having rolled a 5 up, or if a misfire is rolled, the salamander can only roll a 5 or higher, or something. Counts as having rolled a 5 or just whatever, because flamethrowers subtract 1 from the misfire chart to make them more liable to blow up, I guess. But what that ends up being, and I've asked, and this is not intentional, is that if you misfire with a Spout Flames Salamander, you can roll a 4 and have him not be able to shoot the next turn, instead of the 5 up, which is he takes a wound. And they've said that that's not intentional, and it'll be fixed, and then it keeps not being fixed, so just make this say it always counts as having rolled a 5 up. Or hell, just count him as always having rolled a 6. Just say, if misfire is rolled, Salamander always counts as having rolled a 6. Because then even with this -1, he still rolled a 5. No matter how people want to take that wording to mean, whether it's after the -1 or before the -1 or whatever, it's still, he takes 1 wound. Taurosaur, this is the third big problem in the book right now. And this is the reason I think nobody's really realizing that this Coatl and his options are so overcosted, is because they're so damn good when combined with this thing that it's taken right now, no matter how much it costs. This right here, the power of Tezquatl, wasn't changed at all with the new magic rules, and now basically essentially completely negates, or essentially counts as a Lord Caster that you can combine casting with, which is insane. That needs to be decreased by 1. It needs to be decreased by 1 instead of 2. Possibly also getting rid of the ward save when you use this one, and leave the ward save on these 2, but not on this one. That might be a bit overkill. I'd be okay with it though, because this is because the effective +6 to cast that you can currently get a Coatl Lord to, between his +2, Wellspring of Power, the Book of Arcane Power, and then this thing, most spells he can just 2 dice. Because if it needs to go off on a 13, he can 2 dice it, and he'll get it on average. Anything that needs a 9 or lower to cast, a Salon or a Coatl just auto casts with 2 dice, which is insane because there's so many spells that need a 9 or lower. Really, it's like an 11. I would 2 dice anything that needs an 11 or lower to cast, which is nuts. If this ward doesn't go away on this, then the Engine of Ancients should go up to like 50 points, and this Flames thing would then need to be buffed up because it's already never used, and it would just would need to be like D6 or 15-inch range or something, or both. Honestly, I could also stand some of the cost of an Ancient being shifted onto this, like maybe make this 30 and this 50. Just because Ancients aren't really worth the 215 points quite. But then the engine is... because the real engine cost is 80 points on top of the Pterosaur. That's what matters, is that is 80 points. So you can play with these numbers as long as it ends up being 80 or more points. The Stygiosaur. 3-up armor now, which is neat. I mean, I don't own the model. Never use it, so don't have much to comment on that. Just, neat. Predatory Roar. I've heard people saying maybe should go up to like 40 or 45 points as an upgrade. Holy crap, I just realized that this monster's only 110 points. It's really odd to me seeing how cheap monsters are compared to what they were in 8th, because in 8th it was rare to find a monster under 200 points, and then usually their point cost was proportional to the size of the actual model, because it had to be, because you weren't going to shell out $85 for something that was only 50 points in your army, so you'd need like $300 of them to actually make a substantial contribution to your list. But now, they're diverted from monetary cost, so this $85 model that is one of the biggest models GW's ever produced is 110 points now. That's actually really funny. I don't know, there's not much to say to this. Kingdom of Equitine probably wants to slit this thing's throat in its sleep with that Predatory Roar. Because that's the big thing people are always saying, is that it completely ruins cavalry charges. Yeah. Mounts, Apex, Carnosaur I already discussed in the Starfall Shard part. The Raptor should be a little cheaper. These two should be a little more expensive. Palanquin should be a little cheaper and like toughness 4. The Hatred, maybe shift some of the costs from the Palanquin onto the Hatred thing, because the Hatred thing is why people take it right now. Yeah, other than that, really happy with how the book is so far. That's just in summary. Some shifting around in these magic items, especially the arcane ones. Fix this section of the Warlord, basically. Lords should be slashed across the board. I would rework the disciplines to bake some of their cost into the Coatl itself. Captain Flying Mounts should be a little bit more expensive. Ditto the Veteran for the Warlord changes. Cayman Ancient should be cheaper. Spears. Just a bunch of little maintenance of life maintenance things on most of the units. The only big ones is that I think Cayman should be nerfed a little bit. Spearback should be nerfed quite a bit. The -2 to casting value thing needs to be nerfed. Probably to 1. Probably just to 1. And then the Coatl Lord multiple disciplines build should be reduced in price a little bit. Those four things, and then the spears one. The spears one I would honestly say is the fifth thing. That's really, really annoying, especially when most people's models have spears. Don't need 14, 15 point Saurus. Because this one should really only be taken with hand weapon shield to make an anvil, and that would give most Saurian warrior builds 13 points, which I think is fine. So other than those five things, let me think. What were the five again? Magic items, Cayman, Spearback. Oh, six things, I guess. Magic items, disciplines, Cayman, Spearback, Engine of the Ancients, and Saurian Spears. It's just a bunch of little piddly, this unit's min size, this unit's bow option, this unit needs to be fixed, but I've given up on it at this point, yada yada yada, throughout the book. If I saw version 12 with just those 6 changes, I'd be really happy. Yeah. That's everything from me. Hopefully there should be some more videos coming out now. I really want to do a nice review of the Undying Dynasties full color book. I don't know much about the army, but if every book looks like that one, I will be a happy camper with this entire game. I was kind of honestly expecting just to have these black and white data slate PDFs, because it's been so focused on tournament play that I didn't think anyone would really care about the full-color, lore-centric, art-driven books. But it looks fantastic, so I'm going to have to get a video out on that. Maybe a Tactica on the lists that I'm currently running. Well, that's a bit harder because they keep changing. I'm a really big fan of the full poison, this thing, plus Swarms build, which is kind of annoying since I just built it with the giant laser cannon, all converted up for the hobby challenge, but oh well. So that's it from me, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.